before I read the president, the minister's speech, I would like to give some background a little bit. So this, our study about this capital city started in 2017 actually, when the president came with the idea and then see some reason. So he asked governors, particularly the Minister of Governors, to prepare this study of this. And then this study also helped stage by stage certainly, and we involving a lot of people, a lot of ministries, a lot of scholars and university. So and then before the president announced that the capital city will be moved to Eastern Kalimantan, actually, in the first stage we also proposed to the president with three alternatives actually before we moving to the outside Java. First, one alternative is to stay in Jakarta, but we develop government district. So all the ministry's office moved to around the president's office. But certainly the issue is huge as well. Not to mention about the price of the land and to move some offices, private offices over there. And the second alternative is to move the capital city near Jakarta. I think some two presidents also have an idea to move around Jakarta. But these two alternatives, is not really solving big issues that the president and us, the government, want to solve. So the third alternative is to move the capital city outside Jakarta. So this is the one that we will discuss. Distinguished guests, regarding the plan to relocate capital city, the expected new capital city is the capitals that represent national identity and reflect the diversity of Indonesia. So this is clearly what the president wants. We want to have a capital city that really reflected our identity. So I will later on explain this. On the other hand, Jakarta as the capital city of Indonesia is a form of inheritance from the Dutch East Indies colonies, which was developed from the port of city of Jakarta in 1619, and as a center of Dutch activity in the Dutch East Indies. Batavia came to be known as the Queen of the East, which represents Dutch interests related to trade. So this is one thing that we also will consider. So I think when the Dutch government chose Batavia at the time, based on the economic issues. So they a center of economic activity of a big company of the Dutch government. So and at that time we don't have the Republic of Indonesia. It's not archipelagic country. So we have different conditions right now. So in Indonesia history, there have been many periods when the national capital relocation has been considered. A proposal to move the Indonesian capital city from Jakarta to other location has been discussed since the Sukarno era in 1957. President Sukarno, the first president of Indonesia, outlined the plan to develop Palangkaraya in Kalimantan, specifically in Central Kalimantan, as the future capital of Indonesia. In 1980s, President Suharto also briefly discussed the transfer of the national capital to Jonggol. This is near Jakarta, I think a little bit eastern part of Jakarta, in West Java particularly. So, and in 2010, the debate continued about the creation of new capital city that would be separated from urban, economic, and commercial center of the country. President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono supported the idea to create new capital, new political and administrative center of Indonesia. Due to Jakarta's problem in April 2017, the Joko Widodo administration also started contemplating the idea to move the capital from Jakarta to outside Java Island. So this is the story of some presidents who have an idea to move the capital city. So I think all these presidents have seen that the Jakarta is not really fit for a central of government. So Jakarta in Jabodetabek, or we call it Greater Jakarta, or the Metropolitan of Jakarta, is challenged by uncontrollable urban growth and inadequate support system. The population of Jabodetabek metropolitan area or Greater Jakarta is about 32 million people. So you can imagine maybe some people who came from smaller country Indonesia have total numbers less than 32 million. Second largest in the world, with population density in Jakarta itself about 15,000, about more than 15,000 people per kilometer. That's in 2017. Make it as the 19th most populous city in the world based on WEF in 2017. So I think in 2013, Indonesia is the 10th populated cities, but now in 2017 it's the 9th. So we have increased the position. Jakarta at the center of every activity, from trading, financial services, government administrations, education services, and also manufacturing industries, making most of the population and economic activities concentrated there. Jakarta is also considered one of the most challenging cities in the world regarding traffic conditions. So I think you now have experience on that, even though we try to develop more transportation system, including the MRT. Average vehicle speed at peak hour is only 16 km per hour. Commuting time is about 2 or 3 hours per trip, or 4 to 5 hours round trip. So you can imagine the quality of life people in Jakarta, particularly who live in suburb. It takes 4 to 5 hours from works to the office. The ratio of road infrastructure to total area of the city is only 6.2%. So actually the ideal is considered to be 15%. So it is very far from the ideal condition. In addition to productivity, environmental and health consequences, frequent traffic gridlocks prevent effective communication and coordination among government agencies. High congestion has the potential to cause air pollution, and not to mention the economic losses due to the congestion which increase every year. So I think based on the World Bank study, I think in 2017, we lost about 65 trillion rupiah per year. So that's a huge amount of money. Not to mention about the pollution. So I think some of you have heard about 2 or 3 weeks ago that Jakarta is considered as the most populated pollutions in the country, in the world. So I think this is not good actually indicators. Jakarta and Jabodetabek area are also vulnerable of floods, land subsidence, and sea level rise. Approximately about 50% of the Jakarta area has a level of flood security below 10%, and the ideal condition is supposed to be 50 years. So in Jakarta it's only 10 years. While the land subsidence about 35 to 50 centimeters. That's in 10 years from 2007 to 2017. And the sea level will rise about 25 to 50 centimeter in 2050. So I think this is the environmental condition of Jakarta. Moreover, they also face potential earthquake tsunami threat caused by southern West Megathrust and Sunda Straits, and the earthquake caused by Baribis Fault, Lembang Fault, and Cimandiri Fault. So it's actually a lot of fault around Jakarta. However, the government of Jakarta has made various efforts, not only government of Jakarta but also central government, to overcome this problem through the urban regeneration program, which consists of the following projects: clean water management. Currently, Jakarta only has 60% house connections surround Jakarta. So we have a target in like next 5 years to have 100% house connection. And transportation management, you may know that we want to extend the MRT from the west side to the eastern side. And then flood control and water supply, provision of settlement up to 600,000 units, and wastewater and waste management with a total budget of 571 trillion rupiah. This is huge money in next 5 years or even more. The source of financing include the national or state budget, bond, or regional loans, and also private funding. This mega project will be implemented in 3 stages, which is in short term, 2019 to 2022, medium term, 2022-2025, and the long term, 2025 to 2030. So I think this is our plan. What happened in Jakarta after we moved the capital city to Eastern Kalimantan. So because we want to keep Jakarta as a central of economic activity. Distinguished guests, Java Island in 2045 will be transformed entirely to urban areas. At the time, Jakarta population who live in cities was 73%. So that's our based on our forecasting predictions that not only in Jakarta actually, and all urban area people will live in urban area in about 73%. And specifically for Java, 90% will live in cities. The concentration of the urban population in area of DKI Jakarta, West Java, Banten reaches 76 million people, and from Jakarta, Bandung megapolitan. So I think the metropolitan will expand up to Bandung. It's not only Jabodetabek, as you may know, some cities around Jakarta is part of the metropolitan, but maybe in the next 10 to 20 years, even Bandung will be part of the Jakarta. The West Java is the most densely populated province in Indonesia, about 57 million inhabitants in 2035. Some of the things that cause the high concentration of populations in Java include: 1, Java is concentration of economic activity in Indonesia. Second, the number of jobs adequate. 3 is the island where the capital of Indonesia is located. And 4, availability of facilities and infrastructure that is the most complete than other regions. So the current main issue in the national area development is the large gap between regions, especially the development gap between the western part of Indonesia and eastern part of Indonesia. This is reflected in contribution of regional GDP in national GDP in 2018, which is contribution to regional GDP of Java is about 58%. So Java itself, the contribution to the national economic about 57%. Not to mention that the economic growth of Java even bigger in the rest of the region. So you can imagine in the next 5 years is the disparities become bigger and bigger. The high population in Java causes high demand for water resources, certainly. So I think this is very logic. The rapid population of growth, land use change, climate change, and economic activities that are concentrated in Java, which is only covered 6.9% of the land area of Indonesia. In the meantime, most people live there. Causes most of the island of Java to experience a crisis of water availability. Water on the island of Java currently included in the rare category. Moreover, according to the availability of water projection in 2045, the carrying capacity of water in Java may decrease in quality and quantity compared to other islands. So this is also one reason why I think the president decided to move to Eastern Kalimantan. Based on the strategic environment assessment data in 2018, the largest land conversion over the past 30 years is in Java. But you can see, I think in this chart, it's declining, but certainly because the availability of land is declining as well. The conversion of agricultural land, including estate commodities, into non-agricultural areas in Java is an unavoidable phenomenon, given the increasing needs for housing and rapid development of industrial sector. Ladies and gentlemen, moving the capital to Kalimantan will make the positive impact on national economic growth and will not cause a slowdown on the national economic growth. Moving the capital to province outside Java will increase trade between regions. So we already have developed some kind of model, economic model, to see how the impact if the capital city move to Eastern Kalimantan, also in Kalimantan. And the Java will increase trade between regions, not only within the province of new capital city, but also inter-provincial trade in Indonesia. More than 50% of Indonesia territory will experience an increase in trade flow if the national capital is moved to province that have good connectivity with other provinces. So I think this is also one our criteria, that the capital city have to be moved to the city that already developed. So we don't have to start from the scratch to develop infrastructures like airport and seaport, something like that. So relocation of national capital to Kalimantan will increase investment in new capital city and surrounding provinces. Other than that, the transfer of national capital to Kalimantan will increase the output of a number of non-traditional sectors, especially in service sectors such as government sector, the communication sectors, hotels, trade, finance, and education. There are several economic impacts of moving national capital outside Java, namely increasing national economic growth by around 0.1 to 0.2%. This is in the short period, actually, it's about 5 years. Reducing the gap between income group, reducing the disparity between regions, and new capital development investment will have a multiplier effect on the national economy. The development of special economic zone have become one of Indonesia's strategies. So I think the moving capital city to Eastern Kalimantan is actually only one part of our strategy in the next 5 years or even more. So we want to move the economic center of economic activity to outside Java, because the president really want to see the development as an Indonesia-centrist, not Java-centrist. So far the development focusing on Java, because a lot of infrastructure has been there. So one of our strategy to optimizing the special economic zone, I think in the last 5 years, we already operationalized 10 out of 12 special economic zone, but we really want to optimizing it, because some of them is not optimal yet. We need to push local government as well to invest more and promote the area. So again, the development of special economic zone has become one of Indonesia's strategies to encourage investment and increase Indonesian competitiveness. The criteria of the ZIS, or Special Economic Zones, or KEK in Bahasa Indonesia, location are in accordance with the spatial plan and located near the trade route and has clear boundaries. The development of ZIS is intended to increase in the industrial optimization, create jobs, optimize industrial activities, and encourage the acceleration of regional development through new growth centers of the balanced development between the regions. The development of metropolitan area and new cities is also our strategy to leverage the economic development. So the metropolitan and new cities is aimed to encourage equitable development, because I think yesterday, if you attend the speech from the minister, it's mentioned that the 1% of urbanizations can increase about 3% of the income per capita if the city have excellent infrastructure, basic infrastructure. In Indonesia, currently, 1% of urbanization only increase 1 to 1.4% the income per capita. So I think we have a huge challenge there. So that's why one of the strategy to develop new capital city is to have excellent plan and development of the new city as a reference of for other cities. The development of metropolitan area and new cities aim to encourage equitable development. This will spur economic activity that can have an impact on the surrounding area. The new city can also be a support and a problem solver for a city that have developed, especially those related to spatial problem. In addition to being a support, the development of new city can also be an independent city so that it can accommodate the activities of an inhabitants. Here, I think I will explain a little bit about the National Activity Center, or we call it PKN. PKN is an urban area functioning as the main node of export and import and international trade activities, as well as a center of industrial and service activities on a national international scale. In addition, National Activity Center or PKN is also the main node of transportation that accommodates activities on a national or provincial scale, whereas this local regional activity center, or we call it PKW or PKW in Indonesia, function as a second node, as an export-import activities that support the National Activity Center, a center for industrial activities and services serving provincial and several district scales. Transportation nodes serving provincial or several regency scales and coastal area that support the national marine economy. Eastern Indonesia requires the existence of National Activity Center, or we call it PKN, that can strengthen the function of PKN itself and PKW, or Regional Activity Center, which is simultaneously grow new activity center. Through this development, it can have an impact on reducing the gap between Eastern Indonesia and Western Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, the calculation of the financing of the national capital relocation is based on the scenario of the city scale to be built. There are two scenarios. First scenario is by moving 1.5 million people. This is actually the scenario of to move all the civil servant with the family to new capital city. A second alternative is we do the right sizing first. So it's not all the civil servant move to capital city. So the first scenario is about 1.5 million people. So certainly this is stage by stage. So I think in 2025, maybe only 100,000 or something. And this will need 40,000 hectares of land. And on the second scenario, which is about 805,000 people, will need about 30,000 hectares of land. The estimate funding certainly to finance this plan for the national capital relocation is, for the first scenario, is about 466 trillion rupiah. And then the second one scenario is about 323 trillion. Some people always ask us how to finance this. So we have three schemes actually, through the national budget, and then the public-private partnerships, and through private company. So I think this is clear for us. Yeah, I think you know already that if we have a good plan, good management, I think a lot of private company want to join in this development. Even in Jakarta, there are some infrastructure built purely by private company. Some other through private partnership, people-private partnership. So, for example, again, for financing strategies consisting of PPP, we call it dual contract, for financially feasible and less financial feasible projects. Optimization of the asset management in Jakarta of new capital city is also our long-run strategy. If the capital city moves to the new capital, to the eastern of Indonesia, we have a lot of asset in Jakarta. So we will manage this as what you call it, as a source of funding in the next period. So, inspiring panelists, I think this is also one issue that how the institutional setup to develop the new capital city. We also have already provided this. So the institutional arrangement is also an important aspect to be considered in the implementation of new capital relocation. It is necessary to establish a national capital development authority who has the responsibility in preparation and construction process, and certainly including how to manage all the assets in Jakarta. So I think this is very important issues as well. The implementation timeline stages are planned for the first 5 years period, started in 2019, which we will finalize this year, to make sure that the study, because actually the current study based on still 3 locations. Now, since the president already decided that the capital city will be moved to Eastern Kalimantan, then we will start to study very more detail. So the in 2020, the preparation of regulations and institutions, arrangement of city master plan, a regional technical plan, including the urban design. In 2021, design and engineering design, certainly we have to prepare this, and groundbreaking of development of the new capital city. So the groundbreaking is going to be in 2021. And 2022, 2024, start constructions, and hopefully in 2024, we already can move some of the government. Distinguished guests, I would like to finish my speech, not my speech, actually the minister's speech, with a lot of questions, I guess, from you, with high hope that the panel discussion will bring new insights. So I think some of the resource person can also share the idea. I do hope that that from this event we could strengthen our collaborations for more inclusive urbanization. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for Bapak Rudi Prawiradinata for the speech. Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the next agenda is keynote speech from the Order of Capital Cities, Varieties and Patterns of Development and Relocation that is going to be conducted via Skype. At the moment, we are connected with Mr. Vadim Rosman. We're still waiting for Mr. Vadim Rosman to connect it via Skype. Okay, Mr. Vadim Rosman, time is yours.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, I am very honored to be invited to speak at this Congress, and I'm delighted to address you today. The topic of my presentation is capital cities relocations worldwide, some lessons for Indonesia. There are many different ways to think about capital city relocations. One popular perspective is the perspective of project management. Capital relocations are mega engineering projects. Scope, time frame, budget are really important. Another popular perspective is the perspective of urban planning and architecture. Many books about new capitals written from this perspective, and they focus on urban design, layout, amenities, quality of life, and convenience. Another very popular perspective is the perspective of geopolitics that focuses on the relationship of the country and its positioning within the mega region. There are also many books that are written about new capitals from the perspective of economics, and they focus on cost-benefit analysis, the contribution of the new capital to economic growth, job creation, and trade-offs between the investments in the old capital and the construction of the new ones. My message today, and probably the main argument of my presentation, is that political perspective is the most important one. And only in the context of this political perspective, capital city relocations can be successful. location and the development pattern of capital cities to a large extent determine the success of the state. So we need to focus more on smart states, not just smart cities, is currently the case. And the goals of the successful governments always go beyond the construction of the successful city. And the reasons I will try to explain today in my presentation. I will start with some statistics and factoids to put the case of Indonesia into perspective and demonstrate that Jakarta is facing many of the same problems that dozens of capital cities are facing in different countries. I will also try to clear up some misconceptions about capital cities, design capitals, and capital city relocation. Can we move to the first slide, please?
We're already on the first slide.
There is a popular misconception that capital city relocations are very unique and very singular events. However, history shows that most countries have relocated their capital cities many, many times. Only in the last 100 years, at least more than 50 countries relocated their capital cities. 30 larger countries in about 25 smaller countries, at least. So capital city relocations in the last 100 years happened pretty much every other year. So it is very common, and there is nothing unusual about it. It's a normal part of life. And this is not counting subnational capital city relocations in like larger provinces in India and in China and in many other countries. Moreover, and more importantly, the topic is debated in more than 50 countries, both developed and developing countries. Most of these countries are in Africa, but some developed countries such as the UK also is contemplating such a move. It is also important to emphasize that Jakarta is not alone and it is facing very similar problems with many other capital cities. And I will show you some details later on. There are at least 16 larger capital cities that are exposed to earthquakes. 8 capital cities are in danger of flooding and because of the rising sea level and climate change. Many capital cities are facing problems with sandstorms, drought, water supply, and I will show you the list a little later. Also, I wanted to point out that the quality of urbanization is very low in most developing countries. So, in many countries, more than 50% of urban population live in the capital city. So it is really important to diversify the urban structure for this country. Also important, and I don't have much time to spend on it, but contrary to common misperception, nation building is an ongoing process. Despite the fact that many nations have liberated themselves from their colonial masters, they are still involved in the process of nation building. Let's move to the next slide. So this next slide is showing some of the major capital cities relocations in the last 100 years. And you can see here such countries as Russia, Turkey, Australia, and most recently Germany, Kazakhstan, Tanzania, Pakistan. Let's move to the next slide. So more than 20 countries, smaller countries, have relocated their capital cities as well. Most of them are again in Africa. If we move to the next slide, Actually, the next two slides are showing the countries with very intensive or relatively intensive level of debates on capital city relocation possibility. And again, most of these countries are in Africa, but there are many countries in Asia, pretty much all countries in Southeast Asia discuss this issue. Many post-Soviet countries discuss it. And I'm talking only about countries that have a debate on the government level, right? So this is something that is debated in the parliament. So I'm not even talking about countries where some individuals, some intellectuals come up with proposals to locate the capital city. And there are many different reasons for this debate. Let's move to the next slide. Four criteria of an effective capital city. I'm trying to do it as quickly as possible. Any effective capital city should meet four requirements. It should be safe, so this is security. It should be fair to different regions, to different ethnic, religious, and linguistic groups in the country. Again, we'll talk about it in more detail. They should reflect the identity of the nation, and it is most important for post-colonial countries. And there are two aspects of this identity. One identity is forward-looking, and one identity is more historical. So it's kind of backward-looking. And we can see and identify cases, that illustrate both of this type of identities. Economic efficiency. I would not be able to do justice to this topic, but I will just mention that it is really important for the capital city to keep kind of an economic balance in the country. At least not to take resources from other regions. Capital cities produce public goods for different regions. They should be accessible, but they should not take resources and develop at the expense of other regions. Let's move to the next slide. As I promised, this slide shows some countries that have high level of exposure to different types of natural calamities and disasters. I was not able to put all countries, that kind of face these problems that are located on tectonic fault lines. There are many more smaller countries. For instance, Haiti is a country that is really facing serious earthquake risks, and it's not on the list. So we have many countries that have flooding problems, like Jakarta, so Bangkok, and not all of them are located on the coastal line. Jakarta, Bangkok, Monrovia, Taipei, and so there is a real risk that many of the cities will disappear in the next 50 to 120 years. Taipei is one of those cities in East Asia. Georgetown in Latin America, the capital of Guyana. Subsiding is a really big problem, not only for Jakarta, but also for Bangkok, Mexico City, Beijing, for Tehran, in Iran. Water supply problems, as I mentioned, is a big issue, and so forth. Let's move to the next slide, please. Compromise capitals. This one is an illustration of the fairness criteria that I have mentioned earlier. And this is really most important aspect of politically motivated capital city relocations, and especially capital city relocations that are also inspired by federalist principles. So the most important thing about this compromise capitals is their neutral character. So they're neutral, they are located on a neutral territory, and the typical features of these capital cities, new capital cities, is that they were built in between two most important parts of country, right? Two most important regions. And in some cases that they're not really in between, but they're kind of equidistant between these cities. And there are many illustrations that is really amazing that this is such a persistent and consistent pattern that can be discovered in many countries. So Washington, D.C. is an example of a design capital city, and it was sited in between the industrial north and the rural south of the country. Ottawa in Canada, between French-speaking and English-speaking parts of Canada. Wellington in New Zealand, in between North and South Island. Bern in Switzerland, between Zurich and Geneva. So there are many examples. Brussels also follows the same pattern. It's kind of a neutral point between Flemish and French-speaking parts of the country. And I wanted to emphasize, and this is really important, that this pattern is found not only in modern states, but it was already very common and very persistent in pre-modern society. So I'm giving you several examples here. Memphis in Egypt was located on purpose between Upper and Lower Egypt to unite the country. Jerusalem in Israel was located between Judea and Israel. Belmopan, Madrid also was established between Castile and Aragon. Warsaw between Poland and Lithuania. So this is very common pattern. It is also common today in many developing countries, and I believe it is very relevant for Indonesia as well. So the relocation of capital city in Nigeria followed this pattern, in Pakistan, and we'll talk more about Pakistan, but it was pretty much Islamabad, and Pakistan was kind of a neutral point between Urdu-speaking Western Pakistan and Bengali-speaking Eastern Pakistan, Bangladesh. And as you know, Bengali-speaking population was the majority. Again, two other examples, but a little bit more tricky of the same pattern are found in South Africa. So we see here the distribution. It's also a compromise, but this compromise is achieved not through the placement of the capital city in between two parts of the country, but it is based on the distribution of capital city function between four provinces, and one province was finally financially compensated for not having, any capital city functions represented. And the same is in Netherlands. So in Netherlands, we have a kind of a dual capital city system. The official capital is in Amsterdam, and The Hague hosts, most of the real government functions, and it's a reconciliation between Protestant North and Catholic South. Let's move on to the next slide. Here I describe 6 strategies, and they're closely related to the 4 criteria that I have just described, but I will explain the relationship in the graphic form in the next slide. I would not be able to discuss in detail all these 6 strategies, but let me just say a few words. So territorial integration is often related to contested territories. So Kazakhstan is a good example. The north of the country was populated mostly by ethnic Russians, so it was really important for Kazakhstan when it gained independence to establish its presence and to assert its Kazakh identity in the north of the country, so Astana was moved there. What is really important to understand about these 6 strategies is that they're not just separate strategies that were chosen by different countries, but these are aspects of any capital city relocation that should be considered right in the process. So spatial compromise, I just described it briefly. Um, so this is really a political strategy. Historical integration was really important for post-colonial countries because many of these countries, and believe it or not, Italy or Greece, also kind of post-colonial countries, so they moved their capital cities back to their historical old location, to Rome from Turin, and from Florence in Italy, and to Athens also from another place. The same happened in Israel, and the same discussion is taking place today in Mongolia. Economic integration, the illustration, the best example of this strategy is Brazil. So Brasilia was established to develop the backward regions of the country, to open up Amazonia. And we'll talk maybe hopefully more about Brazil because it has so many common elements with Indonesia.
Mr. Fadim, 3 more minutes. 3 more minutes again. 3 more minutes.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, let's move to the next slide real quick. I guess I won't be able to go over it, but it pretty much describes the relationship between 4 strategies, 4 criteria of successful capital and 6 strategies. And let me talk about this successful and failed projects because it is a really important concept, much discussed. In the media, we see a lot of horror stories about capital city relocations. So capital cities are blamed for the fact that they are not such, new capitals. They're not the most convenient place to live, that they're not sufficiently vibrant, that they're developing too slowly, that they create some inconveniences for civil servants. But I really want to emphasize today a different aspect. I believe that, as I have said earlier, the successful projects always go beyond the idea of a successful city, of a successful capital city. So it's not about successful city, actually. And capital cities are not really full-fledged cities. And in many countries, they are called villages. So, for instance, Bonn and Washington, D.C. and Madrid are often, historically often described as government villages. So the point I want to convey is that it's really important to look beyond short-term effects, right? Because most of the benefits, from my standpoint, of capital city relocations, they are long-term. But most of the disadvantages and setbacks are short-term. And some of the cities that are very successful are considered very successful by most people. Cities like Washington, D.C., they were really criticized bitterly. And Washington, D.C., for instance, was described as one-horse town, very dull, lacking, any kind of interesting events. So it takes time. The point I'm trying to make is that it takes time for the new capital city to develop, to become livable, to achieve high level, high quality of life. And that's the story of many cities that we know today. Kyoto, St. Petersburg, Seoul in South Korea. Really, used to be new capital cities, very inconvenient, but because of the many centuries that have passed, now we don't remember about it. And so in Indonesia, it's really important to see this long horizon. Again, such cities as Baghdad, Kota, Cairo, Seoul, and even London at some point, they were designed capital cities. And really, another important aspect is, can we move to the next slide, please? Positive and negative reasons. It is really important for Indonesia, I believe, to emphasize kind of a positive agenda for Borneo Island, right? Kalimantan. Because most often we read about the problems of Jakarta, about overpopulation, gridlocks, and so forth, bad quality of pollution and so forth. But it is really important in the context of relocation to think positively about the new place and how it can integrate the country, how it can solve problems. So it is really important not to emphasize so much the push factors. So the factors that are pushing, the government of Indonesia to make this decision. It's important to emphasize the pull factors that are present in Kalimantan and that are most important. Again, I don't have enough time to go over my slides, but let's go to the last slide, quote. I just wanted to finish my presentation with a quote that I really like by a man whom I admire, Renier de Graaf. He is the director of TMO Research and Design Studio in Netherlands. So he once said, an underdose of utopia can be as dangerous as an overdose. This is really profound, very wise idea, because many capital cities have been criticized very harshly for the overdose of utopia. And I hope and I sincerely believe that Indonesia will find the right dose of utopia, because utopia is a part of human nature, and it is really important, for people to have high hopes and to be a little bit utopianist and in the building of the new capital city. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vadim Grossman, for the keynote speech. Well, Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we move to the next agenda is keynote speech from Foundation Metropoli about how Metropolitan can change the national urban system. For Dr. Alfonso Vergara, time is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, the government of Indonesia, to share with us this dream of relocating the capital in the context of the ISOCARP conference. I think the topic of the conference of ISOCARP is very appropriate in relation with this challenge. Super cities is not about mega cities. Super cities come from super intelligence, and super intelligence is the combination between human intelligence and artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is about using technology to improve the efficiency of the city. But more important than artificial intelligence is the human intelligence. I mean, leadership, vision, talent, sensitivity. So super cities is about that at the different scales of the territory. I would like to share with you some research on Fundación Metrópoli that could help in this debate on the future relocation of the capital of Indonesia. If you see in this image, these are cities over 1 million in 1950. In 2020, never in the history of the humanity, the rhythm of the growth and the transformation of cities happened at this path. It has been really spectacular. But not only the rhythm of the growth, but also the connectivity. Connectivity is key for cities. This is the digital connectivity. This is the internet connection between different parts of the world. I would like to share with you initially the important role of medium-sized cities in our world. Today, medium-sized cities represent a very small part of the global economy. In the past, megacities were growing very, very fast. But in less than 20 years, medium-sized cities will go from representing 11% of the GDP of the world to represent 37% of the GDP of the world. When I say medium-sized cities, I mean cities between 150,000 and 5 million. It's a big spectrum. But the problem of small and medium-sized cities, they don't have the critical mass to be relevant globally. So they need to, they don't have the alternatives of connectivity, the diversification of the university programs, the sophisticated financial services. The only way medium-sized cities can be relevant in a global world is by working together, by working in urban system, working in territorial diamonds. We call territorial diamonds these new engines of the global economy. On the right, you see the Northeast, in the center, New York. On the right, Boston, Washington. Washington is the political capital. New York is the economic capital. Even in the south of Europe, these diamonds has the European diagonal. These are different research on the new scale of thinking, of the new scale of territorial planning. This is an experience we did in Colombia called the Caribbean Diamond, 10 cities working together, digital connection, helping integrating the urban economy of the different cities. Even Bilbao, which is one relevant example of transformation, Bilbao only can be understood in the context of Euskal Hiria. Euskal Hiria is the Basque city region, the polycentric Basque city region, Bilbao, San Sebastian, Vitoria. Without this environment, Bilbao transformation would be impossible. Even the extension of economic power of Bilbao is because the improvement in high-speed train and the extension of the economic space. So we need to think territorially out of the box. Diamonds do not have government because diamonds correspond to functional areas and ecological territories. So, excuse me. In the case of Singapore, Singapore is a small island, but Singapore today goes beyond Singapore. This project is called Singapore Super City. One city in 3 countries. In the north, you have Iskandar, which is Malaysia. In the south, we have Batam, the island of Batam in Indonesia. And on the right, Bintan. The future of Bintan we are designing now is in relation with Singapore. The dialogue between Singapore and Bintan, Singapore and Batam, is not about center and periphery, it's about polycentrism and cooperation. So I would like to apply these ideas to a very central location in Indonesia, the Java capital diamond. We are in a very dynamic context and in a very intensive context. You see, there are more people living inside this circle than outside the circle. And these are the ASEAN countries. Approximately 600 million people live in this territory, very, very dynamic. And Indonesia is the leader of this territory. They are working in an economic community, which is very important. Not only connecting countries, but connecting cities. Singapore has the presidency last year in relation with this process of integration of the economy of ASEAN and proposed the creation of ASEAN Smart City Network that will be cities collaborating. In my opinion, Jakarta has the vocation to lead this urban system. You see the cities in ASEAN and the location of Jakarta, and particularly Jakarta. I don't mean the municipality of Jakarta, but metropolitan Jakarta, approximately 32 million people, has the vocation of leading this urban system. Even there are a lot of problems, we saw, but the capacity to lead this territory is very important. You see Jakarta in an isochrome of 30 minutes, Bandung, and also Setang. This is an isochrone of 1 hour, 2 hours. So this area, this territory, is one of the more complex in the world. More than 68 million people live in this functional area. So when we talk about the topic of the ISOCARP Congress this year, we are talking about territory without limit, territory that need to have a new creative way of governance, because otherwise it will be difficult to deal with that. In the case of Jakarta, there is a fragile coastal line. Jakarta, metropolitan Jakarta, has the possibilities, has a lot of potential of transformation. Jakarta is not the problem. Jakarta is the opportunity, because Jakarta is the biggest concentration of talent, institution, people, capital. So Jakarta needs to lead not only Indonesia economically, but also this ASEAN territory. You see the complexity of this Jakarta territory and the possibilities of dealing with the sea, the coastal line. Being an archipelago and having so many islands, having more than 17,000 islands, waterfronts are very, very important. We need to be in Indonesia the leaders in waterfront design around the world. And also these are the ecological corridors. We need to recover these ecological corridors and the possibility of protecting the coastal line. So this idea coming from the research of Fundación Metrópoli together with Indonesian young planners, the idea of creating a protected corridor, we call the Blue Project, the Blue Ocean Project, and also the possibility of some of the key roads of metropolitan Jakarta to become boulevards and to improve and to increase the public transportation system. So this is not only problems to be solved. We need creativity of planners to give solution. Imagine the possibility of rethinking the coastal line and having different communities, activity hubs, and giving a new order to this blue ocean city, which has the capacity and the potential to lead the ASEAN territory. For instance, Tokyo, which is one of the most complex cities in the world, 37 million people in Tokyo. Tokyo has the Bay of Tokyo, which is approximately 80 kilometers of the coastal line of the Tokyo. They transformed by creating small island for different functions. And today, with the Tokyo Olympics 2020, a huge effort of transformation will be made. But this inspiration of Tokyo, one of the more complex cities, but with a fantastic public transportation system and a security system, could inspire a lot the transformation of Jakarta. This is Yokohama, coming from a transformation of this coastal line. This is, in my opinion, this is a very interesting suggestion of collaboration between Japan and Indonesia in these particular things. So this is the location of Jakarta in this beautiful environmental environment. And what is happening in this context with the new challenge, with the challenge of relocating the capital? We can learn from the past. We have here different capital cities. This is Washington, D.C., Brasilia. Brasilia is growing outside the planned zone. Canberra and Putrajaya. We worked 2 years ago with Dorlisa here with us today in reinventing Putrajaya. This is Kuala Lumpur, and these are the cluster, the economic cluster in Kuala Lumpur. Every color, different economic cluster, and you see this delimitation of Putrajaya in this area, and this concept of multimedia supercorridor. This multimedia supercorridor connected the central part of Kuala Lumpur, the Petronas Tower, with the new airport in the south. In the middle was the new capital. This is the center of Kuala Lumpur, and this is the image of Putrajaya. Putrajaya has approximately 25 years old, but is very much focused on governmental issues. They invest a lot in this lake, in the landscape, and these are the roads. They design the city with roads and parcel, and doesn't work. The most attractive cities, like Barcelona, have urban fabric, have architecture and public space, and space for interaction. This is Barcelona, this is Copenhagen, this is Boston. This is not about roads and parcel. So it is very important to learn from the best experience worldwide to design a humane environment for the new capital. So this idea, this vision of having the multimedia supercorridor connecting the center of Kuala Lumpur with the new airport, 65 kilometers from the center, and in the very, very center you have Putrajaya and Cyberjaya. The idea is connecting the two for having a more diverse urban structure. And we suggested the idea to inject life in Putrajaya to discover magic places, acupuncture points, where we can put new functions to balance the specialization in only governmental issues. These are the points where the buildings of the government are located: office space, education, urban facilities, retail, residential. These are the clusters existing today. So we propose to work at the intersection, to work in these areas, and to recover the blue line for connecting people. So the idea is connecting Putrajaya, Cyberjaya, and creating a critical mass bigger that can give, with new projects, giving new life to the traditional functional administrative territory. So this is a suggestion that sometimes faced the challenge of building this new capital in a context of a global environment, which is the multimedia supercorridor.
Mr. Alfonso, 2 minutes more.
2 minutes. So you see now Putrajaya, how can inspire the mistakes we made in specialize too much the city in the governmental issues, how we can have more diversity. So Kalimantan, this is the location, this is Jakarta, and this is the new location. So this new location will allow for being more in the gravity center of the urban system. And also this location have the possibility of having dialogue with the surrounding territories, with the cities around. Samarinda, Balikpapan will be a new dialogue that will give new strength to the new capital. And also these straits that will be important for the dialogue between the different islands. So to finalize my presentation, I would like to say that in order to face this challenge, we need leadership, we need vision. Also, we need participation and economic diversification. Take advantage of the environmental system. Design intelligent urban structure. This is about urban intelligence, connecting these pieces, and technology can help in activating this design of the territory. So this is a challenge in relation with the 10 Valley projects, which is also an ambition to improve and to develop the tourist destinations in Indonesia. And of course, not forget the Jakarta, not as a problem, but as an opportunity. Not only Jakarta, but metropolitan Jakarta and the diamond. So that was the main message I wanted to share with you in relation with the dialogue we will have later on. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alfonso Vergara, for the keynote speech. Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and now we're moving on to the next agenda, the panel discussion session. The speakers on the sessions are Leader Regional and Metropolitan Planning UN Habitat, Dr. Remy Sitchiping, Foundation Metropoli, Dr. Alfonso Vergara, Research Fellow of Korea National Institute, Dr. Bum Hyun Lee, and Managing Director AGM Urban Design Master Planner of Putrajaya, Mrs. Nurliza Hashim. In this session, you are invited to post your advice, comments, or questions through slido.com on your web browser in your phone. And don't forget to put the hashtag AskIKN. And this session will be moderated by news anchor of Metro TV, Ibu Fifi Areda Yahya. Ibu Fifi, you may have the floor.
Yang sama-sama kami hormati, Pak Deputi mana? Pak Deputi, belum pulang ya Pak. Keren ikut ratas juga ya. Yang terhormat Bapak Rudi Prawira Dinata, Deputi Menteri Perencanaan Pembangunan Nasional Kepala Bappenas, bidang pengembangan regional. Selamat siang Pak. Baik, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm very excited to be part of this very exciting topic. As you know, it is a very hot topic in every warung kopi or coffee shops or every family gathering, what will happen to Jakarta if we relocate to Kalimantan? Most of the people in Indonesia have not been to Kalimantan. I trust that we have not set foot in Kalimantan. What will happen to our beloved capital cities? That is the biggest question that we have, but Bapenas has been doing a very great job, a tremendous job in sending an information, clarifying things. And Bapak, you just went to Metro TV and also maybe a roadshow through the media to help us understand what will happen to the capital city of Jakarta now and why we should relocate to another exciting area, which is in Kalimantan. We look forward to learn insights and experiences in relocating capital cities from our expert speakers. What are the important factors that the new capital city must have? What are the key elements of sustainable financing of new capital development? What are the challenges that we are facing ahead if we relocate to a new city? And how can we inject life to the new capital city? And we hope to get answers. We look forward for the insights from our distinguished speakers and to help us prepare comprehensively for Indonesia's historic journey, which is relocating the national capital. Boleh dong tepuk tangannya dulu ya biar semangat ya. Okay, now I would like to invite our distinguished speakers. Yang pertama saya persilakan Ibu Nurliza Hashim or Madam Nurliza Hashim, Managing Director, AGM Urban Design. She is the Master Planner of Putrajaya. Please give a big round of applause. Welcome, Ibu Nurliza. Most welcome. And I would like to also invite Dr. Bum Hyun Lee. He is a research fellow of the Korea National Institute, or as we say, KRIS. Welcome, Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee is also very much involved in the master plan of the South Korea new capital city, which is Sejong. And we also would like to invite our distinguished speaker from UN Habitat, Dr. Remy Sie Chiping. I hope I did not mispronounce your name. Dr. Remy is leader of regional and metropolitan planning from the UN Habitat. And we also would like to re-invite Dr. Alfonso Vegara from Fundación Metropoli. Please join us on stage. Ini tempat duduk untuk Pak Menteri, ya. Dibersih-bersihin dulu. Okay, baik. As the MC has conveyed earlier on that I will not be taking questions from the floor, ladies and gentlemen, but please submit your questions through the Slido. And don't forget to put a hashtag. What is the hashtag? Ask IKN. Okay, then that's the only way you can ask questions. So first to Dr. Remy, what was your initial reaction when you heard that Indonesia is relocating the capital city not only to 20, 30 kilometers away from the current capital city, but we are like moving island from the Java island to Kalimantan?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being here. I think as many of you, you have many questions when you get news. But my first reaction is to think that, okay, at this time of the Sustainable Development Goals, of implementing the new urban agenda, or implementing some innovative principle on urban and territorial planning, we heard earlier from previous speakers, this is a great opportunity to do things differently, to innovate, to have perhaps the type of city that the Indonesian want. So for me, it's a welcome news that it's a way to do things, and I agree with one of the keynote speakers who said we don't have to have the new city to run away from Jakarta, but an opportunity to do things differently, to have the ideal. I think with that positive attitude, we are set. We have no reason to doubt. We have no ground yet to dispute. If this is the facts, how do you make the best out of that decision? I think that's how we embrace it and just offer the importance, and I think was very clear, and it's becoming very clear, that this territorial approach to the city, so that it doesn't become just one city, but the transformation of the Indonesian country and the region. If it's seen as such, as an ambition, it's a welcome development, it's a way to learn from all these vast experiences, to do things differently, to do things positively.
Thank you. What about you, Madam Nurliza? Madam Nurliza, what went through your mind? Oh my God, President Joko Widodo is moving the capital city closer to Malaysia. What is he doing? Is that what went through your mind?
Well, I was actually excited, you know. Excited because 26 years ago, it was the same announcement my Prime Minister made. And even though we moved only 25 kilometers, it still had the same knee-jerk reaction. You know, are we mad? Are we crazy to move our city? And it was only 25 kilometers. So, but I was excited because 26 years ago, I was much younger. It was start of a journey. It was the start of a career for many professionals in Malaysia. And I think it gave us an opportunity to grow at a speed that we never thought that we'll be able to manage. Because we had a visionary leader who wanted to have city that could undo a lot of the problems that our old cities has. It wanted a city that could not only showcase the best of Malaysian identity, but it also wanted us to have a city that other cities will follow as an example. So 26 years ago, we started the idea of an intelligent city. Today, people call them smart cities. So we already had that idea of having an intelligent government and city. So I think that for me, when I first heard Indonesia was going through this, I felt excited for my fellow planners, you know, because I think it's a great opportunity to learn, to grow together while developing this very interesting project.
So you don't mind, the capital city is closer to Malaysia, right?
I think I'm glad that it's close to Malaysia. Serumpun, yeah.
Serumpun, thank you, thank you. Okay, and what about Dr. Lee? What went through your mind? What was your first reaction when you learned about relocating the capital city?
Yeah, nice to meet everyone. Do you know the Gangnam style? I live in Gangnam. Sorry, nice to meet. In Korea, we first decide to moving to the relocated capital city by election, the presidential. We decided by presidential committee. So Korean people was the strength for the rapid urbanization. Within the 5 years, we make the 200 hectare the new town city in metropolitan area. We have a lot of new town project evidence. And so we see the evidence of the new town in this is a good best point of view of the relocation to new city, capital city. And then sympathy from general person, not specialist, with a real world network and discuss about how to make the new town, new capital city. So we make the competition for globally. First time we step, it's a global competition. The Korean new capital city designed by the Spanish architecture. We corrected by the prime ministers. We had the prime, with the prime minister government, and the global competition by the global competition. We designed the world area. And then the all Korean now certified the new capital city. We now constructing that area. We know that the policy is very good to move area with the we protect concentration of Seoul area. But Seoul the GDP is increased. No, the same develop the Seoul and Sejong is that is a very important balance developing in national scale. I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Lee, can you reiterate what was the main reason for relocating the capital city to Sejong? What was the main reason? Was something wrong with the old one, or?
Yeah, there's just 3 points of view of the region. First is the concentration of the Korean. The 50% of people live in the Seoul area. Second is North Korea. Do you know the North Korea, Kim Jong-un? There's close to the North Korea, the Seoul. There's about 20 kilometers from the North Korea. We moved to the 150 kilometers south in that. The third point is I think the people want to move because there's a lot of problem in the Seoul area, and then we decide that the third reason. Yeah, okay. Do you understand?
Yes, yeah. Okay then, very well then. So Professor Vadim Rosman is still with us through Skype. Am I correct? Am I correct? Is that correct? So may we have him prepared? I would like to ask him a question. But Mr. Vegara, what are the most important factors need to be possessed by the new location, especially when we are relocating to another island, which is totally different than Java?
This is a very strategic decision. In my opinion, this decision needs to be based on the identity, promoting the feeling of belonging of the country. In a country of the size of Indonesia, which is an archipelago, which is a very fragmented territory, cohesion, social cohesion and integration is key. It's not easy to maintain the national spirits, the identity, the feeling of belonging, to discover the singularities and the diversity of the country. So selecting this place is not only a technical issue, it's something with a strong political meaning and a strong symbolical message for the country. So I mean the decision of doing this effort in relocating, in my opinion, bring an opportunity to create the most advanced urban laboratory in the world today. Never in the history of the humanity cities are growing at the rhythm of today. This is very important to consider. There is a research in MIT that calculates how much money the world will spend in urban solution in the next decades. No? And according to this report, 350 trillion US dollars will be spent in the next 20 years in urban solution. That means that urban solution sector will represent 21% of the global economy very soon. So being leaders in this sector is very, very important. So imagine the challenge of reinventing Jakarta after the government moved to another location, to have the challenge of implementing the more advanced concepts and technology in urban solution and in building the city. I think is an opportunity to accelerate the transformation of the country. This country in few decades will be the fourth economy in the world, and I think it's an amazing challenge to accelerate thinking, to accelerate investment, to accelerate international interaction for building a very, very singular, very special process of a new capital.
Okay, let's see what Professor Rosman has to say about the same question. Professor Rosman, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, how are you? My name is Fifi.
Hello?
All right,
Can you hear me well?
I saw you, but I cannot see you now, but I can hear you well. Professor Rosman, what are the most important factors that a new capital city should possess? In particularly, we're talking about Kalimantan, the future capital city of Indonesia.
Well, the most important things from the standpoint of environment and physical location, I would say good supply of water, because it is a really serious issue, and actually some cities that have relocated, soon found that water supply is a problem. And also it should have very good opportunities for expansion. New capital cities tend to grow very fast. They are always among the fastest growing cities in the world, so they should have a lot of opportunities to expand physically. I would say also that they should be located in a neutral place. So for instance, I believe that Kalimantan is a neutral place, kind of in between Western and Eastern Indonesia. I understand these concepts are not always clearly defined, but this is an important consideration. And of course, security is an important issue as well. And I believe that this new site was chosen exactly because it's not exposed to earthquakes and flooding.
Okay, can you elaborate more on the security issue, Professor Rosman? Only limited to earthquakes or other security issues that must be considered before relocating to a new capital city?
Well, of course, it should be also kind of, they should be secure relative to potential, hostile kind of invasion and so forth. But I believe that Indonesia doesn't have this problem at the moment. And Kalimantan, although, this island is shared between 3 nations, doesn't have any threats at the moment. So it is, I don't see any political kind of threats.
Very well then. Professor Vadim Rosman, thank you very much for joining us, and we will proceed with the panel in the Borobudur Hotel. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Remy, reflecting on the new concept, Pak Rudi itu konsepnya kan ya, capital city-nya tuh smart, green, beautiful and sustainable, right? Okay, so do you have any suggestion on how to converge the capital vision, our new capital city vision, with the new urban agenda's principles?
Well, this is a great question. As I said, this is a really timely moment. It's critical to understand that you are developing a new city or a new capital in the context of the Sustainable Development Goals, in the context where we have to implement the new urban agenda, so that coming 2030, you can show this is how we have made that happen. You can become a model. So there's no better time for someone to start something now within that context. And you know pretty well that in the context of the Sustainable Development Goals or the new urban agenda, one of the core tenets of this agreed frameworks by all countries are leaving no one behind, which is really about inclusiveness. So it puzzled me that, and I think somehow in the conversation that I heard so far, that the element of inclusiveness, territorial integration is very key. So the inclusion, putting, I would say, I think one of my friend, the keynote speaker, the other day talked about humanity, putting human people in front or at the center, no planning, no other things. If you put the people really ahead of what this city is for, who is it going to benefit, then you are really start singing the song or the principle of the Sustainable Development Goals or the new urban agenda. There are other principles or values there that are very valuable that I will have just touch on one or two. One is really about innovation. You have the opportunity now to play around in a territory that is still relatively flexible, to design something new, innovative. You heard that the first day as well. So this is the second element that we need to consider. The other is really about integration of the territory, integration of the space. This is so fundamental that if you are designing a city just for the capital, but not for the whole Indonesia or the whole archipelago, or to really talk to the world, then you are missing that opportunity. So that territorial integration is very important, and I was very pleased, and Indonesia had been at the forefront of developing these guidelines on integrated territorial planning, that they also translated, and I understand they are using it in Bahasa. So this is again showing that they are serious about this, and this principle have been taken back in the new urban agenda, where you have that innovation, inclusion, transformation of the territory in a positive way. And this element, when it comes now to the design, as many of us are urban planner or regional planner in the room, these elements of aiming for more compact, integrated, or inclusive development, an element of resilience. Resilience is key. If the cities or that new territory is not designed as per the new urban agenda or the agreed frameworks to be resilient to all type of shocks and social, natural, and other, then it might not really live up to that expectation. So now seize that opportunity to put some of these frameworks into action and to show the world that you have done it differently, and you become the laboratory, as we heard earlier, that people can come and learn how to do or move their capital from this one. And I was very pleased to finish, Madam Chair, that you are really benchmarking, you are really looking at all type of example out there to really extract from that, at the same time thinking of your identity. And I understand it's not easy in a kind of scattered type of environment you are to find one identity, but this is the opportunity to define that identity and make that city the identity that all Indonesians will refer to. So really you can draw that thing and make it big, you can draw it to make it fair, but it's all in your hand. The tools, the knowledge, everything is out there. Partners are here to support.
Dr.
So
Remy,
to make that
based
happen.
on your experiences, what are the challenges, the biggest challenge facing in trying to converge the new urban agendas with the new capital city vision?
My sense now, since I'm learning more, is that we seem to put the planning, the location, before the needs, the people. I think that would be the biggest mistakes, to plan the ideal. You heard example earlier, the utopian, the more, the ideal city, without thinking of the demand, the needs. I think that will be the mistake. And I hope that in this time of learning, we're going to be able to understand that there is a need and get that sense that people, that make that place attractive first, that everyone would like to go there. If that discourse start to sink in many people's mind, then the new urban agenda become a reality.
Make that place attractive first. Well, why don't we ask Madam Nurliza and also Mr. Lee, but first to Madam Nurliza, what was your experience? How do you inject the life to Putrajaya back then, 25 years ago?
Oh, well, I think the most important thing when we are preparing such a city as important as a administrative capital city is to have a master plan that can stand over time. Probably that's easier said than done, you know. So how do you have a plan that could last you 20 years, 50 years, you know?
Was everything in Putrajaya according to plan, or there are some being ignored?
I would
so
say
you can all move on.
Putrajaya's master plan had a very, I think it had a very dynamic start, because we involved a lot of professionals in the process. There was a competition done, and subsequently there were many ideas, and the government felt that there were many good ideas. So they wanted all the good ideas to be on the plan. So they forced everyone to work together. We had a huge consortium of professionals working together to actually prepare the concept master plan for the government and for the parliament to agree that we will be moving our capital city. So I think the plan, as correctly mentioned, have to have a reason for why you want to have a new city.
What was it for Putrajaya?
For Putrajaya, it was the livability part, you know. The government promised that the new city will have a high quality of life for the people that's going to move there. So, in fact, actually, it's very true. Today, every one of us are very jealous of the life that people in Putrajaya have, you know. They have parks there, they have smart
25 years
schools.
after.
25 years after, you know. Even my daughter, and every time we go there, she's asking me, why don't we live here? You know, because it has come to a point that it has become very beautiful. It's very calm, and then it's actually incredibly green, you know, which all our cities are losing green. This is one city that has 40% green and enormous water bodies, you know. So I think it is very important that the people understand that when they're moving to a new city, it provides them with a different quality of life altogether. And probably this is that 1.5 million that's going to go there, or the 800,000 that's going to go there. There must be a reason for them to move. Just as how we were, you know, people think we had to force people to move to Putrajaya. We actually have to in the beginning, because it was nothing
In the first
there.
5 years?
Yeah,
5 or
years.
10 years?
5 years at
5
least,
years,
because it was just a estate. So our Prime Minister took the first move. He moved first. He was the first man to move in to the office, to his house. You know, there was practically just his office and a few buildings and nothing else, but he wanted to make the first move to show the people that, you know, we're going to make it work, you know. So slowly, it's been slow but very steady, because I think for Putrajaya, we took an approach of Malaysian Incorporated. We didn't want to create a land banking kind of system. We didn't want to create investments coming in and people playing property play in Putrajaya. So Putrajaya's land price was very much controlled in order for it to manage over the 25 years that it has existed thus far. Hence, I think the master plan, and I say master plan, is not the physical plan. It needs to come up with very strong governance plan, very strong financial plan, and very strong implementation plan that can last you the entire cycle of the whole township.
Okay.
So we are 65% done. So we've got 35% more to go. And actually, this 35% that's left is where the money is going to come.
And the 35% from the business, retail?
The business, the private sector, properties that the developer are allowed to now sell to the private sector and public sector, because they have a commitment to build 55% of government housing and 3.9 million of government office space, which is leased for 25 years in return for the construction.
We'll get to that scheme later on, but I
Yeah.
would like Mr. Lee's reaction on the master plan, whether everything went smooth with the master plan until now.
Yes, originally we make the master plan in 2005 with for the 25 years we're making. Now we have the 3 steps. First step, we have make the basic concept, and then development planning and action planning. That's by step. And now we are second step now is constructing almost 50% of our area. And then we could have the LHA, Land and Housing Corporation. The corporation is developed by public sector. Public sector very important to purchase the land because of the high price of the budget and disband for the urban developing. Usually Korea, the law of developed urban area is mainly is Land Housing Corporation. And then they purchase the land and they sell the land to the private sector by the gain the money. So we can operate that all the area within the 50% of the developed area. So we continuously to develop. Nowadays we move to that parliament, discuss about to the people. First time the new capital city only moved to the ministry, not president. We call the Blue House. So we nowadays discuss about the move to parliament for the effect of the concession. So we discuss about the continuously what we the plan is change every time change. I think so. Nowadays we the input the smart city element. Smart city element is developed every time. Every year I don't know exactly technology of the smart city, or sometimes is I don't know is a correctly smart city technology to input to Korean urban development style. So nowadays what kind of smart city technology to the undevelopment area in Sejong City. We discuss every time until 2030. So I think the all planning of the new capital city is developing every time. Every situation change. So the second point is citizen participation. Everyone knows the planning concept. What is the new capital city? What is the new capital city concept? All the people, almost all the people in Korea, 50 million Korean know the concept of the new capital city. Yeah, the balance developing the Korean national area. So sharing the concept of developing the new capital city is very important to the process city. So step by step, make the planning, not developing, sharing the concept. This is a very important point for the new capital city, I recommend.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Mr. Vergara, what is the biggest risk in deciding to relocate a capital city? In this particular case, Jakarta, a metropolitan city, moving to a more area with more forest than people.
In democratic system, every time we have a new president, usually have their new ideas. So the maximum risk, in my opinion, is the lack of continuity in a project of this magnitude. So for this reason, I think it's very important to have the maximum participation of the population, of the institution, in the decision-making process, and even in the design of the area. The appropriation by the people of this great vision is very important for the continuity. We have very, very painful experiences in this respect. For instance, in Mexico, in the city of Mexico, the last president approved the construction of a huge airport for Mexico. After investing $4 billion in the airport, in the construction, the new president said, "I not agree with this airport," and they said to stop the full process. So they have the legitimacy of arriving, has been elected, and make a decision like that. So a vision and a project of this magnitude, I think, is very, very important to have the maximum consensus and to have the maximum participation in the decision making to guarantee that the new leaders will follow this generational effort. And second point that can reduce the risk is promoting at the same time not only relocating the capital, but giving creative, ambitious ideas for the rehabilitation and transformation of Jakarta. Because this is an opportunity to rethink Jakarta, to rethink the waterfront, to rethink the mobility system, to recover the ecological corridors. There is a possibility of reinventing a city of this complexity and having a vision in this respect at the same time that the country develop a new initiatives of this caliber, of this, but considering these two initiatives as part of the urban system of Indonesia. Urban system are the connectors. The archipelago itself are fragmented, so urban systems are very important. And in some countries, the government are creating ministers of cities. Instead of housing minister, urbanism minister, infrastructure minister, ministros de ciudades, minister of cities. that is a very integrated approach, because the infrastructure of the future of the countries, in my opinion, will not be only roads, train, ship lines. The infrastructure of the knowledge economy will be the cities. And if you have money, you can build infrastructure, traditional infrastructure. But even if you have money, it's not easy to build cities. Build cities require vision, leadership, creativity, design, not only money. So I think it's quite a challenge for the country, and it's an idea that can accelerate the transformation in terms of accelerating thinking, accelerating investment, accelerating international connection, and it's a very good idea, in my opinion, at this moment of Indonesia.
Okay, Dr. Vergara, one of the main reasons to relocate is to reduce the gap of development between Java Island and Outer Java. How can we accelerate this so we have what is expected when we relocate to the new capital city?
This is one of the impact, but it's not the only way of balancing the territory to move the capital. There are many other ways of balancing the territory from the economic point of view.
So that's not the only way.
This is not the only way. You can really increase the connectivity, not only physical connectivity. The water is not the boundary. Water could be the connector between the different islands. Digital connectivity, institutional connectivity, and also points, activity hubs for activating economic activity in different economic clusters depending on the character and the profile of the different islands. So, but moving the capital is one point that is not, the real impact is not rebalancing the whole archipelago. This is can help, but there are other mechanisms for rebalancing the economy of the different islands.
Okay. In your presentation earlier, you mentioned about how important and significant having a seaport, sea access, and also an international port. So, what about Kalimantan?
So Kalimantan is a fantastic location because it's one of the corridors that can be used in the future and can have two facades, the two islands, Silibis Island and also Kalimantan, will be a very important point of view.
Kalimantan, Sumatra.
Yes.
Don't say syllabus. And don't say Borneo. It's Kalimantan. Kalimantan,
Borneo is only for Malaysia, but Malaysia, Indonesia won't conquer Malaysia. And so, no, but Borneo and Kalimantan, I think as an island, I think that the location of the new capital will generate a new sea corridor, very important for the economic transformation of the cities in the both sides of this green corridor. And 80% of the world population live in coastal areas because the competitive advantage of being connected through the sea. Indonesia has the potential to be leading the dialogue between cities and water. And this is something that could be experimented also with the new capital design. And also reinventing technology for connecting cities in different islands. And also working with islands in terms of eco-islands for the energy, water, and connectivity, this kind of things. In my opinion, the vision of pushing an idea like that will have an impact in every area of the society.
Very well then. We're talking about society. Pak Rudi, we know that one of the challenges is also convincing the nation that we need to move. It's urgent to have a new capital city, right? So Putrajaya has a very exciting experience in convincing the Malaysians that why we need to move, although not to another island, only 25 kilometers. It's a controversial issue and it's always contested when you want to relocate. So what happened during those hard times, convincing the nation we need to have a new capital city?
I think you cannot avoid but communicate with the people, yeah. So we have a process in Malaysia through our town and country planning where we prepare more statutory documents, you see. The reason to prepare, once we had the Putrajaya master plan, we decided to legalize the plan, because legalizing the plan means we have to bring to the people. It's a public process. So it went on a public process. There was exhibition. It opens up, it has to be exhibited and explained over and over again, and it has to be brought to the highest level to get it approved. So I think legalizing the document is quite an important process. It also, in a way, protects the vision. Maybe not protect the plan, because the plan can change under the system, but maybe protect a vision to have a capital city, should that commitment discontinue with other leaders in mind. So I think that was a good thing that we did when we legalized our document through our process of structure plan for the country. I think it's the same. You have a process here under Tata Ruang, and you can always institutionalize that kind of system as well, because that takes care of the public's interest. Everyone have a say. You don't have to be in the same location to have a say. You don't have to live in the same location to have a say. So I think that was quite an important step that was made. In fact, Putrajaya actually amended its master plan twice. We have a third master plan, but it was started as Garden City and Intelligent City. Today it's Green and Smart City, So it hasn't changed, because where it just went on to an evolution to a level that it was to translate green, not only in terms of nature, but in terms of carbon, in terms of technology. So it wanted to bring that forward. And it also went to the people.
Main communication is smart city, green city.
Yeah.
And how did you respond? I mean, the government responded when part of the nation stated that why can't you make Kuala Lumpur the smart and green city as well?
Oh, well, actually Kuala Lumpur never stopped planning as well. So Kuala Lumpur, you see, the debate for the real estate is we're going to lose Kuala Lumpur. Investors are going to run. But Kuala Lumpur also transformed. So we created the world-class city as the vision for Kuala Lumpur. Looking at different kind of activities to bring to Kuala Lumpur, that could actually generate the city further. So I think Kuala Lumpur have not really actually been affected by Putrajaya. The move of population is actually being replaced by new population. But most importantly is the businesses. So that's where we had urban regeneration in Kuala Lumpur as well, to bring new development into the city. Actually, there's a big government building, if you all been to Damansara. It's now a new town center. The whole government building is gone, but it has transformed into one of the high investment area in Kuala Lumpur as well. So I don't think Kuala Lumpur lost anything. It benefited with the regeneration. But I think what's always important is that we don't forget, and I think that's what Alfonso was saying, Even though we're building new cities, we must not forget the importance of our current cities. And I think for us is looking at Kuala Lumpur and Putrajaya as part of one big metropolitan, which coexist and actually co-dependent and supporting one another.
How long did the noise die down?
Well, 10 years.
Ya, Pak. Pak Rudi, teman-teman Bapenas siap-siap ya. 10 tahun udah siap, Pak? Siap mental ya? Siap mental ya. Sekarang juga udah siap ya.
Different groups of people will always make noise, Pak. Today is the government, tomorrow is the private sector. Someone is always making noise.
All right then. Okay, Mr. Begara.
We are very lucky to have Nolisa, because Nolisa is the main authority of urbanism in Malaysia, and has been involved in this transformation of Putrajaya for a long time. As an external viewer, I was very much impressed a couple of decades ago when I discovered about this Malaysia 2020 plan. and the idea of multimedia super corridor, about having not only the center of the city, but a new airport, a new corridor, the multimedia super corridor, and two cities in the middle. Not only the capital city, but also Cyber Jaya, the technology city. So I think was one of the key factor of success, because they invest a lot in the new airport, designed by Kisho Kurokawa, and also the train connection, the road connection, the green connector, and two cities. It's not about an isolated new capital. It's about territorial vision. I think the advantage of the location selected by Indonesia for the new capital, having two cities nearby, this is very important, to have a new dialogue with agriculture, with forests, with water, with existing village, not creating only the administrative areas and then to invent a city around. No. We already have cities, we already have services, we already have a critical mass. So this is easier to have a success in the new capital.
Mr. Lee, would you like to add on that?
Yes, there's another point of the moving the capital cities. We know the national scale. We found the national scale. Korea must consider the leading balanced development national scale. I saw that 56.3% people live in the Java, West Java. When the within the 20 year or 30 year, within the 100 year, how to make the sharing the people to national scale, the vision of the national plan. Korea have the national plan framework. We first change the framework, and then we make the objective of the goal of planning capital city. Two goals. One is national balanced development, and the second is we make international model city. What kind of international model city is Jakarta is also existing city, but new area. There's no the developing area, existing urban areas, and we make the new style within the environmentally assessment, and then also I think the Jakarta to the new capital city by airplane within the 2 hours we access to. In the future is to change the concept of the networking city, not only land transportation with the airplane is very important. I heard from my friend of Indonesia, West Indonesia to the east in 9 hours by airplane. So Indonesia is different. Korea is very small, but Indonesia is a very huge area in the national scale. So we have discussed about how to make the national scale the balanced development is very important. And then the second, the goal of the Sejong areas, the goal population of Sejong area is 500,000. Nowadays, 300,000 is the admin area. We focus on the developing area. We after the 5 years, we make the administrative area is a new special city government after 5 years. That is huge, around 7,000 area is the size. So developing areas we focus on. I heard from the 40,000 hectare, the size is we core area is about 700 hectare. We focusing on that. We think about how many people move to that. Either 500,000 or 700,000. We study about the feasibility study, economically and environmentally to feasible. So all the overall feasibility study about until I don't know exactly. Do you have the plan, the roadmap? That is important.
Thank you. So it's time for questions. We have all our questions at slido.com. So this is for Madam Nurliza. the cost of relocating capital will occupy major country resources. What's your opinion on the human capital investment in Putrajaya that Indonesia can also learn from the experience? May we have your response, please?
Yeah, actually, even when we wanted to build Putrajaya, we didn't have much money. So Malaysia adopted the Malaysian incorporated model, where we actually had a holding company, Putrajaya Holdings Sdn Bhd, which is actually owned by 3 major conglomerates of Malaysia. One is our Employment Provident Fund, second is our Khazanah National, and the biggest owner is actually our petroleum company, which is Petronas. So in a way, they funded the development of major infrastructure in Putrajaya, in which $1 billion worth of property, of commercial property, were given to them on a 25-year lease to raise bonds in order for them to finance the development. So that's one of the way that actually we brought in. We had another key stakeholder that helped us in terms of cost. They are actually the utility companies. They were given, they came, they built some of the major infrastructure for a 25-year concession. So, but I must tell you, it's not like it saved the world. We are also having problem because we didn't anticipate technology to be so fast. So the concession after 25 years are still stuck with them, whereas technology have moved on. So we are still trying to undo that concession now. So sometimes not everything works because we cannot anticipate the future. But I think when you talk about human capital, one of the things that needed to do when you have a new city is we need to also educate how to manage this new city. So you build these nice roads, these intelligent buildings, you know. We have a common utility tunnel, 10 kilometers. Yeah? So we needed to learn so fast that, you know, in a way that we have to build the human capital development in a manner that actually all professionals were actually brought in. And in a way, the training and retraining was done by having a lot of exposure to other cities in the world as well. So because at that time there was no internet, not as easy as now. So we need to learn from others. And that also, we brought in people. The whole organization was built by choosing some of the best from agencies to actually manage the city. So over time, of course, now a lot of human capital development have been invested in the area, and I think they are now, they have good park managers there because we have the biggest park area there. They have good infrastructure and IT managers in Putrajaya. And not only that, you know, they have people that now are very focused on local community agenda. They talk to the people, they are actually hands-on with the community. Because when we started Putrajaya, we thought this is a city where nobody dies. Because it's a government city. People come and work and they go off. People come and work and they go off. That was the mindset of a lot of people. But actually now, people want to retire in Putrajaya. People that worked in Putrajaya are buying houses to retire in Putrajaya. So what we thought 25 years ago was going to be a ghost town when everyone retire, it's actually become a living city. So I think this is where it's a process of investing in people and investing in communities.
People now want to retire in Putrajaya. People now want to give birth in Putrajaya, I heard. Is that true?
Yeah, people now want to go to Putrajaya Hospital to get an address that their child is born in Putrajaya. One thing is also because it has a good hospital, so, you know, yeah.
All right, then. Thank you, Ibu Nurliza. So the next question is for Bappenas. Moving the capital is certainly useful to escape Jakarta's problem. However, the problems will remain in the city, our beloved city, and stress the millions left behind. How will you address them? Pak Rudi? Pak Rudi?
Maybe I can sit here. And also, I would like to apologize. I know. That's why I want to try it. Actually, I want to sit beside Vivi. First of all, I would like to again apologize because of the minister eventually still in the cabinet meeting. So he cannot escape. Maybe I should call the president to to allow the ministers came to here. But again, apologize for that. So I will try to answer the questions. Actually, to me, the moving the capital city to Eastern Kalimantan is not escaping Jakarta. Actually, we want to improving the quality of life of people in Jakarta. So that's one issue. Certainly, our major objective of the moving capital city to Eastern Kalimantan or to outside Java to make sure that this distribution of economics is more, what you call it, well distributed. So I think that's one thing, because you know that the disparities between Java, outside Java, western part of Indonesia and eastern part of Indonesia still exist. So this is one issue that we face. I think in the last maybe 25 or 30 years, this is what we want to improve. So we want to move the economic growth more to outside Java. That's one thing. So it's not escaping Jakarta. Actually, we want to improve it, because actually we still what you call it? We still want Jakarta as a capital of economic activity. So if we want to make sure that the Jakarta as a what you call it, center of economic activity, we have to improve the infrastructures. We have to improve the quality of life of Jakarta. So this is one thing. So it's not escaping, but we want improving it. But as I mentioned to you earlier in the speech, that the urbanization is something is happening right now, and I based on the statistical data, I already mentioned it, that the 1% of the urbanization rate can improve 3% if the city have excellent basic infrastructure, transportation system, sanitation, water system, everything. So with the moving capital city to outside Java and make the Jakarta as a center of economic activity, we want to make sure that the investor is still interested in Jakarta. So we have to improving it. So the strategy, as I mentioned earlier, we will develop in the next 5 to 10 years. We call it, as I think, just like Kuala Lumpur, regenerating Jakarta. So we already have a lot of infrastructure plan, infrastructure development plan for Jakarta. For example, I think we will have 6 projects for wastewater system. Yeah, it's starting right now actually, and then we plan to in the next 5 years to make sure that house connections to household Jakarta can be achieved in this next 5 years, because currently it's still 60%, something like that. So we want to make sure that house connections can be achieved in the next 5 years. So again, we are not escaping Jakarta's problem. Instead, we will improve Jakarta to make sure that Jakarta as a center of economic activity is still there.
Okay, so Jakarta will not be abandoned. Land subsidence will be taken care of. Water shortage will be taken care of. And north of Jakarta will not submerge. Okay?
Sure.
You promise, Pak, yeah? Okay.
I promise
So
that.
we can
I
still
promise
go
that.
eat seafood
Next
in
time,
North
5 years.
Jakarta, yeah?
I think the idea from Alfonso is excellent, right? To improve the what you call it?
Waterfront.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
Blue
a
Ocean,
good idea.
Blue Ocean City.
Yeah, Blue Ocean City.
It's
So,
good
yeah.
idea, tapi repot nanti.
I know,
Hah?
Pak.
Politiknya, ya reklamasi aja
Yeah.
bolak-balik.
Yeah.
Ya ribut.
I know that to improve Jakarta, to move capital city is not easy thing. It's a huge challenge for us. But I think this is, again, just like other resource person here, it's an opportunity as well for us. It's a big push as well for us to boost the economic activities, not only in Jakarta, not only in Java, but outside Java.
Thank you, Pak Rudi. Please stay here with us. Okay, Dr. Remy, I think you can help with our next question related to the forest fire issue of Kalimantan Island. How can we anticipate the negative impact of the forest fire?
I'm not sure I would address that one.
Well, maybe your fresh perspective, and then I will go to Pak Rudi.
Okay, my perspective on that is that I understand that there are many studies that are currently being undertaken. What we have thought of was this assessment of the risk. And this will include necessarily the natural risk and other human-induced risk. What I'm also sure about is that this initiative will have trade-offs. Some will lose, some will win. But be aware of the risk that already exists in the region and use that new intervention as a way to correct or risk manage this type of incidents or episodes of fire or flooding. If that may happen, it's a great opportunity to show how you can manage that across the islands. And I think when you are aware of some of these risks, it's a good opportunity to plan ahead and manage and mitigate that. That's all I can say for that particular question.
And we would like to hear from Pak Rudi on that particular question.
Thank you, Bu. I think as you may know that, again, based on statistical data, that most of forest fire because of human activity. That's for sure. So, and then in the last 5 years, since the President Jokowi ruled these countries, actually, based on data from the environmental Ministry of Air and Environment, the hotspot reducing significantly. Because why? You know why? Because the president's really concerned about this issue. Even in the first year of his government, because of this forest fire happened in Kalimantan and Sumatra, he went to the locations. He want to see what is actually happened there, how the local government and the related ministry handle this issue. And then based on that, he really pushed all the ministries or institutional related to the forest fire to make sure that this is not happen again. And then the rate is declining significantly. So that's been, we know that the one big issue in one of the other issue in Kalimantan is not only forest fire but flood as well. Mostly it's because of human activity. So we believe that if the capital city go there, I think the president is easier to control. So issue is not only about the forest fire, but issue Kalimantan as the heart of Borneo. That's even bigger issue. And then also as a lung of the world. So I think that's a big issue as well. So it's a challenge for us. Even one issue that, Bukit Saharto, the area in near the location of the capital city is also become our concerns. Currently, a lot of palm oil. There's a lot of plantation of palm oil there. So it's supposed to be not there. Even a lot of small mining. So we want to improving it because the concept of the city, smart, green, beautiful, and sustainable. So what sustainable that we want to do? Certainly we want to make sure that the environment can be managed well, right? So and not to mention that we want to have, like Pa Birdie always raised, we want to have this city as a forest city like London, right, Pa? So again, with this concept, we want to make sure that the environment issue can be managed really well.
Very well, Pak Rudi. So we are running out of time. Ibu Virgi, should we close with closing statement from every speakers, or we should close with Bapak? Everybody. Okay, Mr. Vegara, closing statement.
In my opinion, the challenge of relocating the capital is the big opportunity to improve the transformation of Jakarta.
All right then. And what about you, Dr. Remy?
opportunity indeed to transform not only Jakarta but the nation. It's heard yesterday from the minister that this is one of the instruments to implement the national urban policy, to implement the regional plan, and to improve the system of cities in Jakarta, which is excellent. Just 2 words to say, as you move toward this, it should be incremental, it should be agile, there should be some special provisions to make that work. So with those considerations, I wish you well in the implementation of this ambitious program.
Dr. Lee.
Yeah, some of the question over there with Slido, yeah, is how citizen participation is a question. In Korea, the Korean government held a hearing session in major city during the planning process. So another propaganda is we explaining session within the development plan. So we have the gathering idea, general citizenship. So we input the, one of them, the idea is the planning. I thinking the sharing of the idea and then the sympathy of the move to the new capital city is a very important point, and continuously discuss about together and network and globally and nationally. Yes, and then by the special law, a law system is very important, and then we collaborate together, Korean and Malaysian, Asian government together collaborate to develop a new capital city in Indonesia. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Very well then. And we still have Professor Vadim Rosman with us. Can you hear us, Professor? Professor Rosman?
Yes.
We would like a closing statement regarding relocating to a new capital city. From you, of course.
Well, I believe it's a very timely decision. I believe that at this stage it is really important to build a consensus and not to make it dependent on the continuity of political leadership. So it would be a bipartisan decision or non-partisan decision. So, and another thing is that Kalimantan Island should not be treated as tabula rasa, as it happened in some other countries, right? So local population should be involved and should be given, most serious consideration, the interests, and I believe that the political dimension of the project is of formidable importance.
Thank you. Professor Vadim Rosman joining us through Skype from Houston. We look forward to see you in Jakarta, Professor. Thank you for joining us. And
thank you.
Yes, Madam Norliza Hashim, we would like to hear from you.
I think I really think this is a very exciting time to plan a new city. It's a time when you have so much new technologies, so much new innovation compared to what we had 25 years ago. So I think the whole spectrum is very different. You have a very huge opportunity to craft something very, very significant, very, very special. But I think what's also important is the stakeholders needs to have many discussions. And the stakeholders should be as inclusive as possible. I think that is very important, and I think from my personal experience, the professional development will be just incredible. So I wish Indonesia, all the very best, and I think this is a real good opportunity to do something very, very special. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Norliza. Dan berikutnya kami juga akan mendengar closing statement dari Deputi Menteri Perencanaan Pembangunan Nasional Kepala Bappenas. Saya persilakan kepada Bapak Rudi Prawira Dinata. Sekaligus menutup ya Pak ya. Bagaimana Ibu Virgi sekaligus menutup? Iya, iya. Silakan. Tepuk tangan dulu untuk Pak Deputi Menteri ya.
Terima kasih Bu Vivi. Certainly I think a lot of input from all resource person. I would like to thank you. So all input and response really well taken, Pak. Thank you to Professor Vadim Rosman. I hope you still hear me. Dr. Remy, thank you Dr. Remy, Dr. Alfonso Vegara, thank you Dr. Lee, and certainly thank you Ms. Norliza Hashim. So again, I think this is really excellent opportunities for us to to hear from all experts or who have a lot of experience in developing new capital city, moving new capital city. So I think we can learn a lot from all resource person here. And certainly I would like to thank you to Bernie to give us an opportunity to have an excellent session here, so we can hear from other participants as well about issues this. I know that we realize that this is a huge challenge. But again, as all the resource person mentions, that this is also a huge opportunity for Indonesia, for us. So I think let's work together. Certainly, we will more disseminate this plan. We know that there is a pros, cons, and mostly because of also less informations from our side, not because we don't want to, but because we have to. You know, the issues about land, about land pricing, even we're not opening the to public, but still some people try to find information. So again, this is we are not try to not to open the information, but again, because of the strategy that we want to make sure that the president himself have to the one who announce this plan to move the capital city. Again, I would like to thank you to all of you, to Pak Bernie, Pak Alfonso Vegara, Pak Remy, Mr. Lee, Ibu Nurliza Azim, and to Ibu Vivi Alidiahaya. Again, thank you very much, and apologize if there's something is not fit with my presentation. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bapak jangan turun dulu, nanti kita mau foto bersama. Bapak dan Ibu, mudah-mudahan apa yang kami sampaikan hari ini manfaat untuk bekal kita untuk pindah ibu kota ke Kalimantan. Thank you very much. Saya Vivi Alidiahaya, mohon tepuk tangan yang paling meriah untuk para narasumber. Acara saya kembalikan ke pembawa acara. Kita foto dulu kali ya Pak ya.
Thank you for all the speakers and also moderator. And we have a photo session. Please be prepared for all the photographer to take a photo session to all the speakers and also moderator.
Foto banyak kan?
Give applause once again for all the speakers and moderator. For all the speakers and moderator, you can return to your seat. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, that's all about our event today. We hope you had a fruitful discussion and bring insightful takeaways from these events. Now we are in the ending of the special session Relocating the National Capital, 55th International ISOCARP Congress Beyond the Metropolis. Thank you very much for your participation in this event. Good afternoon and wabillahi taufiq walhidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon.